Imagine London, 1812. The city is weary from the long war with Napoleon. Its society, a glittering, gilded cage of strict manners and hidden desires. Into this world steps a young man who will shatter its conventions and become its most infamous son. He is Lord Byron, 24 years old, handsome, brooding, and limping slightly from a club foot that has defined his life. He has just published a poem, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Overnight, he achieves a fame never before seen for a poet. I awoke one morning and found myself famous, he would later say. He was the first rock star. But this is not just a story of fame. It is the story of a spectacular fall. It's a tale of illicit affairs, a doomed marriage, rumors of unspeakable sins, and a scandal so vast it would force him into exile and cement his legend for centuries. This is the story of how Lord Byron, the darling of society, became its most monstrous outcast. George Gordon Byron was born in 1788 with two burdens, a volatile heritage and a club foot. His father, Mad Jack Byron, was a charismatic wastrel who squandered the fortune of Byron's mother, Catherine Gordon, a proud and emotionally unstable Scottish heiress. She both adored and abused her son, often mocking his deformity. His father died a debtor in France when Byron was 3, leaving him with a mother whose love was as unpredictable as a storm, and a deep-seated shame about his lameness. This physical flaw made him an outsider, fueling a defensive arrogance and a fierce determination to prove himself. A dramatic turn of fate came at age 10. A distant heir died, and the boy from Aberdeen inherited the title of Baron Byron of Rochdale and the family's ancestral home, the gloomy and Gothic Newstead Abbey. He was now a lord, but a poor one, living in a decaying mansion, a perfect setting for a budding Gothic hero. He was sent to Harrow School, where he was bullied for his limp. In response, he became a formidable fighter and a brilliant scholar, cultivating an aura of rebellious pride. At Cambridge University, he lived a double life, the decadent aristocrat, drowning in debt and keeping a pet bear in his rooms, and the serious poet, publishing his first volume of verse, Hours of Idleness. When a leading literary journal savaged the book, Byron didn't retreat. He fired back with English bards and Scotch reviewers, a blistering satire that mocked the entire literary establishment. The attack announced a formidable new talent, one with a sharp wit and a long memory for slights. To escape his debts and a turbulent personal life, Byron embarked on a grand tour in 1809, but he bypassed conventional Europe for the exotic Ottoman Empire. For 2 years, he traveled through Portugal, Albania, Greece, and Turkey. He swam the Hellespont, adopted flamboyant Albanian costumes, and immersed himself in landscapes of sublime beauty and ancient conflict. Throughout his travels, he kept journals and began writing a long narrative poem. Its hero was not a valiant knight, but a world-weary, cynical young man named Childe Harold, who travels to escape a mysterious and sinful past. Harold was jaded, sensitive, alienated, and magnetically fascinating. Byron returned to England in 1811, burdened by the deaths of his mother and close friends. He was now a man of the world, filled with new ideas and a poetic persona waiting to be unleashed. In March 1812, John Murray published Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. It sold out in 3 days. London went wild. The poem was a perfect storm. The anti-hero. Childe Harold was something new. A hero who was flawed, brooding, and morally ambiguous. The public was enthralled. The exotic locales, vivid descriptions of the wild Balkans, and the classical ruins of Greece offered a thrilling escape. The blurred lines. The public didn't see a fictional character. They saw Lord Byron himself. The handsome, lame, lonely lord was Childe Harold. He had not just written a poem. He had created a legend and invented the Byronic hero. Instantly, he became the most desirable man in England. The most powerful hostesses fought for his presence at their parties. He was invited to the court of the Prince Regent. He was a living, breathing celebrity. In the glittering drawing rooms of London, women were not just reading his poetry, they were falling in love with the poet. The most explosive of these infatuations was with Lady Caroline Lamb. Caroline was married to the future Prime Minister, William Lamb. She was brilliant, eccentric, and completely unrestrained. Upon meeting Byron, she famously wrote in her diary, "Mad, bad, and dangerous to know." It was a warning she chose to ignore. Their affair was a public scandal. They exchanged passionate letters daily. She disguised herself as a page boy to visit him. At one ball, when Byron began to cool towards her, she broke a glass and tried to slash her wrists in front of horrified guests. Byron was repelled by her lack of control. When he ended the affair, her obsession turned to vengeance. She staged a dramatic public burning of his letters and effigy. She then published a scandalous novel, Glenarvan, featuring a villainous, Byron-like character named Lord Ruthven, ensuring everyone in society knew the depths of his perceived depravity. Amid this chaos, another woman was watching Byron with a calm, analytical eye. Caroline's own cousin, Annabella Milbank. Annabella Milbank was Caroline's opposite, an only child and a wealthy heiress. She was celebrated in society for her piety, her strict morals, and her sharp intellect. Byron once mockingly called her the Princess of Parallelograms. She met Byron in 1812 and was both intrigued and repelled. She initially rejected his proposal, believing he needed moral reform. For 2 years, they corresponded. Annabella, from a distance, played the role of his moral savior. Byron, lonely and drowning in debt, saw in her a chance for stability and respectability. In September 1814, he proposed again. Annabella, convinced of her mission to redeem this brilliant, troubled soul, accepted. London was stunned. The union of the era's most scandalous poet with its most proper lady seemed impossible. The omens were bad from the start. The wedding was a somber affair. On the carriage ride to their honeymoon, Byron reportedly told his new wife, "You are the only woman I never could persuade to love me, and now it is too late." The honeymoon was a nightmare. Byron tormented his methodical bride. He recited dark poetry, flew into rages, and took a loaded pistol to bed. He was testing the limits of her famous virtue, and she was failing his bizarre tests. Back in London, things worsened. Annabella became pregnant, and Byron's behavior grew more cruel and erratic. He mocked her intellect and her faith, caroused with actresses, and piled up catastrophic debts. The house was filled with bailiffs. The most sinister element was the presence of Byron's half-sister, Augusta Lee. Byron had a complex, deeply intimate relationship with Augusta. He confided in her more than his wife. Annabella, first befriending Augusta, came to believe she was the embodiment of the Byron family curse. Whispers of an incestuous relationship between Byron and his sister began to circulate, poisoning the atmosphere of the house. In December 1815, Annabella gave birth to a daughter, Augusta Ada. A month later, exhausted, terrified, and fearing for her child's safety, Annabella took the baby and left for her parents' home, believing the separation to be temporary. Once free from his influence, and advised by her family and a doctor who declared Byron insane, she decided never to return. She began methodically building a case for a formal separation, collecting evidence of his cruelty, and most damningly, allowing the rumor of incest to become her silent, most powerful weapon. When Byron realized Annabella sought a permanent break, he was enraged. He launched a vicious letter-writing campaign, calling her a moral Clytemnestra. But the tide of public opinion had turned. The image of the pious, wronged wife and her infant child was too powerful. The unspoken rumor of incest now exploded into the open, turning scandal into infamy. The man who was mad, bad, and dangerous to know was now considered a monster. He was hissed at in the theater. Former friends shunned him. He was being excommunicated from the society that had once adored him. On April 25, 1816, Byron left England forever. He was 28 years old. His exile became part of his legend. In Switzerland, he met another group of literary rebels, Percy Bysshe Shelley, the future Mary Shelley, and her stepsister, Claire Clairmont. Confined to the Villa Diodati during the famously stormy Year Without a Summer, they told ghost stories. From this contest emerged two monsters of literature, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and John Polidori's The Vampire, a story directly inspired by the Byronic persona, creating the blueprint for the charismatic vampire from Dracula to Lestat. Here, Byron wrote the third canto of Childe Harold, pouring his bitterness and pain onto the page. I have not loved the world, nor the world me, / I have not flattered its rank breath, nor bowed slash to its idolatries a patient knee. He had been rejected by England, so he rejected the world. Byron spent the next few years in Italy, living a life of creative frenzy and political intrigue. He began his masterpiece, Don Juan, a witty, sprawling satire that mocked the hypocrisy of the society that had cast him out. Though his scandal faded in England, replaced by a growing awe for his genius, he remained an exile. Then he found a cause worthy of his myth: the Greek struggle for independence from the Ottoman Empire. In 1823, he poured his fortune into outfitting a ship and sailed to Missolonghi to join the rebels. He was no longer just a poet. He was Lord Byron, the freedom fighter. The reality was grim. The town was a swampy, disease-ridden outpost. In April 1824, after being caught in a rainstorm, he fell ill. His doctors, following the brutal medical practice of the time, bled him with leeches, weakening him further. He fell into a fever and died on April 19, 1824. The scandal was instantly forgotten. The monster was reborn as a martyr. Greece mourned him as a national hero. In death, he achieved the ultimate redemption and cemented his status as the ultimate romantic icon. Lord Byron's scandal did not destroy him. It made him immortal. The messy, painful details of his life were polished into a perfect legend. The Byronic hero, the brooding, charismatic, wounded outsider, became one of the most enduring archetypes in Western culture. We see him in Heathcliff, in Mr. Rochester, in countless vampires, and in the modern rock star. His daughter, Ada, became Ada Lovelace, a pioneer of computer science. Annabella lived a long life, forever defined by her brief, catastrophic marriage. Byron understood the power of his own story. He wrote, "But I have lived, and have not lived in vain." His scandal was the fire that burned away the man and forged the myth, and that myth, like a true rock star's, is forever young, forever rebellious, and forever dangerous to know.